name is Janelle Barksdale, and I am the founder of Roses and Thorns. Roses and Thorns is sponsoring a book club, and part of that book club for the June selection, we are reading Michael Todd's Relationship Goals, and this is a review of Chapter 7. Chapter 7 was titled All Tied Up. And if you can imagine, you already guessed it, this chapter, the conversation was about soul ties. And so, really the heart of it was untying the soul ties. He speaks about the soul tie, the word soul ties. It's actually used in the Bible. We only see it one time. And it's when God speaks of the relationship that David and Jonathan had, Jonathan being Saul's son. And Jonathan had such an influence on Saul and such a love for David that he was able to influence Saul to not kill David. This chapter really focused on the fact that there are sexual soul ties, and those are the ones that we need to be released from and healed from and to be delivered from. He goes into great lengths of talking about everything that a soul tie creates in you, that it's bondage. He points out in 1 Corinthians 6, where Paul speaks to the Corinthian church, and he was telling them, don't you understand, don't you know that your body and its members belong to Christ? And so understanding that our bodies are his, that we have to be mindful of how we use our bodies. And he has a watchful eye. And so you're not hid from him. He knows your thoughts and he's present in your actions. He then goes in to talk about the only way you're going to have safe sex is if you have sex within the sex container. And that is the container of marriage. And we talked about that in the previous chapter. So he gives this acronym for having safe sex. The S, that sex is sacred. So it should not be treated casually, and it should not be offered into someone just because there is a dating relationship over someone just because there's a physical attraction. That it is sacred between a married husband and a wife. The A represents anointed. It just says this is an area in your life where God is still present. And so again, under the sex container of marriage, that having safe sex means that it's an anointed experience. F stands for faithful. And so God is faithful to us. We ought to be faithful to him. And it's also right for us to be faithful to our spouse, again, within that sex container that we're in covenant with. And the E is exclusive. And so sex should be between one man and one woman. And so it is a covenant between the two, and not to include in anything else that can pervert that covenant. He gave a wonderful analogy of if you take two pieces of paper and you glue them together, and then when you try to pull those two pieces of paper apart, it's very difficult to do that because you take one part without pulling a piece of the other piece of paper. And that's how intertwined you become with someone else when you enter into a sexual connection to them. And that's why soul ties are so difficult to disconnect from and so difficult to dislodge, because there are so many layers of connection. And so when you pull away from that other person, a part of you is going along with them because you've shared these intimate connections with them. And so it's critically important that you follow the practice to release yourself immediately from a soul tie. And in this chapter, he walks us through that process of releasing from a soul tie. And there are 4 C's. The first one is call it. You got to call a thing a thing. A lot of times we call it a situationship, and, we call it, it's complicated. We have all these cute names for it, but what we need to label it is sin. And so call it what it is so that you can disconnect from it. The next thing he talks about, the next C, is to confess it. We are instructed to confess our sins. The confession provides accountability. And so, yes, you can bring to your own attention that, yes, I need to end this. But when you share with a trusted friend or with a counselor, that you're able to then have accountability to release from that improper relationship, and to have someone that can support you and walk with you through that experience. Next, he tells us to cancel it. And that means get rid of it all, every sign of it. Sometimes we hold on to little charms and trinkets from those soul ties. Let it go, because there are memories attached to those things. And yes, while it might be something that's of value and something that's nice, get rid of it. It's not worth keeping. And then finally, he tells us to cast it. And that's a reminder that we have, that we can cast our cares on Christ, that he cares for us. The reminder is we don't have to do this alone, that you can do this with God, and you can only do it successfully if you allow this soul tie to end and you give it over to God. That's the only way you're going to allow it to end. Remember from our previous chapter where we talked about, does it need to end? You know, the way you get out of a soul tie, you follow that same model, and you want to do it quickly, you want to do it kindly, and you want to do it cleanly. Let it go. Now, there are certain connections that you need to just completely drop. You know, they'll get the idea when you stop returning phone calls or you don't respond to the text. They'll figure it out. Trust, they'll figure that out. Sometimes we get caught into the trap of having closure. And so when we have closure, you come back to that person, and then before long, here you are in another sexual experience with them. Let it go. But again, let it go quickly, kindly, cleanly. And so for anyone who's saying, I've been trying to do this and it's been months or it's been years, and I might go a whole year and not speak to him or her, and then we, happen to see each other, or we, roll across a text, and then all of a sudden now we're back into it again. I just want to encourage you that stop trying to do it in your own willpower. You can do this. You can let that soul tie go through Christ. He is your strength. So please go to the comments and share your thoughts about All Tied Up. If you're ready to unloose those ties. Again, I look forward to connecting with you and reading on with you in chapter number 8 of Michael Todd's Relationship Goals. I do hope that you are enjoying the read. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe to the Roses and Thorns YouTube channel. You can just visit our website at www.rosesandthorns.org. And then once you're there, you'll find a ton of resources. Just choose the book club heading, and then you'll find the book of selection for the month. And then our schedule along with each of the resources are available to you. Take care.